America in the mid-20th century is often associated with perfect pictures from magazines, well-groomed lawns, smiling neighbors, children skating on bicycles. But behind this beautiful showcase, there was always another side, secret, gloomy, hidden in quiet towns and on secluded farms. One of these towns is the Plainfield, Wisconsin. This is a small community where everyone knew each other by name. Something unusual happened here. Life flowed measuredly. Local store, church, weekend hunting. It seemed that it was impossible to face real evil. It was in the Plainfield that a man named Edward Gane lived. The neighbors knew him as a quiet, closed man who spent most of his life with his mother. His father was a drunkard and died early. The brother died under strange circumstances during a fire on a farm. This was officially called an accident. And the mother, a strict and religious woman, inspired Ed that the world around is full of sin and evil, and all women are lecherous. She kept her son in constant guilt, forbidding him to communicate with other people and even dream of her own family. When the mother died, Ed was left alone in a large house on the outskirts. He closed the rooms where she lived, retained them in an untouched form, like a museum of memory. The rest of the house gradually plunged into chaos, dirt, garbage, old newspapers, corpses of animals that he dissected. But no one in the city realized that soon something truly terrible would begin behind these walls. Ed worked on small part-time jobs. He repaired the fences, looked after the children, and helped on the farms. People considered him eccentric, but harmless. Sometimes he told strange things about what can be done from human skin, about books about the Nazi experiments that he read. But the listeners only joked. Yeah, Ed has always been with oddities. Everything changed in November 1957. In a small economic store belonging to a woman named Bernice Warden, suddenly became suspiciously quiet. On that day, her son, the deputy sheriff, went to his mother, but found only an empty store and traces of blood on the floor. On the counter lay a receipt decorated in the name of Ed Gane. The police immediately went to his farm. The road there ran through the abandoned fields and forests, and the house itself stood as if hiding from prying eyes. When the officers went inside, they hit an unbearable smell in the face. In the darkness, a lamp dimly shone, illuminating chaos. Mountains of garbage, rotten food, fragments of tissues. And suddenly the police stumbled upon the fact that they forever changed their lives. In the barn, suspended upside down, Bernice Warden hung. She was cut like a carcass of an animal. Human skulls were found in the house, from which bowls, masks from faces, lampshades made of leather, armchairs and chairs covered with human fragments are made. In the kitchen, boxes with bones. In the cabinets, trophies. One of the most terrible items is a suit sewn from women's skin. Ed admitted he put on him to be a mother, to feel her nearby. The investigation showed that Gane not only killed Bernice, but also another woman, the local bartender Mary Hogan, which disappeared back in 1954. In addition, he dug up the graves in the cemeteries, digging his bodies and taking them home. According to him, he chose women like his mother. The news shocked the whole country. Newspapers came out with headlines like, "Home, home in Wisconsin." Journalists flocked to the Plainfield, trying to look at terrible finds out of the corner of their eyes. People in horror discussed how such a quiet, inconspicuous person could hide the monster in himself. For the police and forensics, this investigation was a real test. Many of them later admitted nightmares tormented them at night. Some could not recover, quit the service. But that was only the beginning. After the arrest, Ed behaved calmly, almost indifferently. His voice was quiet, his gaze was empty. He did not try to deny his guilt. On the contrary, he told everything with frightening simplicity, as if it was not about people, but about objects. "I just wanted to feel that my mother was nearby," he told the investigators, explaining why he put on a women's costume made of his skin. The psychiatrists who were connected to the business were shocked. Ed showed obvious signs of heavy mental disorders, schizophrenia, mania, necrophilia. His childhood under the control of his mother only increased painful inclinations. But even experts argued whether he was a dangerous killer or just a sick person who has lost his connection with reality. The trial began in 1958 and quickly attracted the attention of the whole country. The hall was full of journalists and curious. The prosecutor's office presented terrible evidence: photos of leather masks, furniture made of human parts. People in the hall froze. Some went out into the street, unable to listen to the details. Lawyers insisted, "Gane is insane." And in the end, the court agreed. He was sent not to prison, but to a psychiatric clinic of a maximum security regime. There he spent the rest of his life until his death in 1984. But the story did not end there. Gane's house has become a place of pilgrimage. Crowds of people came to look at the farm where darkness was hiding. In March 1958, the house suddenly burned down. Someone believed that this was by chance, but most believed the inhabitants of the city themselves set fire to him, wanting to erase this place from the face of the earth. Nevertheless, the memory of him is alive. Books, articles, horror films, all this drew inspiration from Gane's affairs. It was he who became the prototype of Norman Bates in Psycho, the Leatherface in the Texas building of the chainsaw, and Buffalo Bill in the Silence of the Lamb. But the worst thing in this story is its reality. Everything that was found in the house really existed. This is not fiction of the scriptwriters, not a legend. He was a real person from a small American town who lived next to other people, smiled at him, helped the household, and at the same time, he created unimaginable horror behind closed doors. The story of Ed Gane was a turning point in the perception of his own security by the Americans. If earlier, the doors of the houses were often not locked, then after 1957 in small towns, people began to look at their neighbors with suspicion. America realized evil can hide anywhere, even nearby. Psychiatrists still study his personality. For some, he is an example of a serious mental illness. For others, the proof that dependence on the mother can cripple all his life. But for society, he became a symbol that monsters exist not only in books and films. Today in the playing field, almost nothing reminds of Gane. His farm disappeared. Things were destroyed. The grave was repeatedly subjected to vandalism. But the memory of him lives in mass culture and in America itself. And, perhaps, the most terrible in this story is that it can repeat. Indeed, every time we see a quiet, inconspicuous person, we cannot be sure that he is hiding in his house